I am the author of the paper that was written 27 years ago to change and reform IDOC, the formation of gang-free and drug-free institutions. I am the one that wrote that.
Hey guys, this is the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board meeting. It's a public meeting open to the general public. The executive director is my ex-county sheriff. He arrested me when I was 16 years old. Many of the board members and attendees represent departments that I have audited in the past. Belvidere, St. Clair County, Bloomington, Lake County, and Champaign, to name a few. The Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board used to be an advisory board, but with the recent passage of a criminal justice reform bill, they are being turned into a regulatory agency with the power to stop bad cops from being employed again in this state. They seem to have some funding issues already, though. Also, the speaker in the intro has one heck of a story to tell, so be sure to stick around to hear what he has to say. Thanks for watching. Hello. How are you? Yeah, I'm just a journalist trying to cover the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board. Am I at the right place?
Actually, we'll be down on the second floor.
Second floor. Okay, because they're showing several different things on the...
This will happen. They'll be up here 3 o'clock, I think. Or maybe not. But the first meeting started at noon, and they're downstairs in the...
Okay, sorry about that. Nice to see you, Brent. You remember me? You arrested me back in 1998, so... Yeah. How's it going?
Not too bad.
All right, good to see you. I'll see you downstairs. Doesn't say one.
That too. Well, what are you invited? Good to see you. But yeah, it really made me
Historically, the board meets on the state. Not if you want to. I got people's games taken out. Because there's a lot of everything there.
Well, I'll start the meeting now, and hopefully we'll get some people joining.
Yeah.
Before noon.
Sounds good.
And we'll try that.
I'm a journalist. I'm an independent journalist. I'm just here to cover the meeting.
You're from where?
I'm an independent journalist,
Okay.
and I'm just here to cover the meeting.
Okay, well, the first meeting you won't be allowed in.
Oh, the first meeting I won't? Oh, I didn't know that. Is that the first 1 hour meeting? I noticed that it's broken up into several.
Yeah, there's mostly committee meetings today.
Okay,
1 o'clock.
uh,
1 o'clock starts the first committee meeting.
okay, and the one that starts at noon is closed to the public?
Yes.
Okay, do you mind if I go around here and get shots of just the nameplates here?
I don't know that, it's not up to me, that's up to the board attorney. Maybe if he's here available.
Check 6, check mic 6.
Nobody would be allowed in the first meeting.
Yeah. All right, I'll be right back in there.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
All right, how are you?
Good, good. I'm John, the board attorney.
Hi, nice to meet you.
And you're independent?
Yep.
This one is locked.
I was going to say who you with, but you're independent.
Yeah, I'm independent. There is an independent news agency, but I think they're out of Britain, and I'm homegrown.
Okay.
But you can open it
Our
from this side.
executive secretary usually handles media inquiries, so I'll probably just have her check with you.
Okay.
Obviously, it's a public meeting. I don't have any objection to.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to. I was wondering. I thought it was open to the public, so I just walked in. I didn't know, so I just went around and started my little thing of just getting the nameplates.
Yeah. And those are actually going to move in just a minute anyway, but those are the nameplates. Check back closer to noon when it starts.
Okay.
I do expect some closed sessions today, though, so we'll have to
Okay.
kick everyone then, but let everyone back in for the votes and whatnot. So,
And what's your name again?
John.
John.
John Keir. Yeah.
How do you spell that last name?
Keigher.
Okay, I'm sure you get that a lot.
Yep.
My last name's Voth, and it's spelled V as in Victor, O-T-H.
Okay.
So I get that a lot.
Great.
Are you law enforcement?
I am. I
What's
work for the board.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So you'll see a lot here today.
All right, I specialize in law enforcement, so I came to this location for a purpose.
Do you have a law enforcement background?
No, other than getting arrested.
We don't have to go there. No. I'll look you up.
Let's check back this at noon, and I'll see if she has any directions for you.
All right, will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Illinois, yes, not Springfield.
Where are you from?
Quincy, Illinois.
Where?
Quincy, Illinois.
Oh, Quincy?
The executive director, Brent Fisher, actually arrested me when I was a teenager. So I just actually bumped into him up on the 12th floor.
Brett and I were sheriffs together.
Really?
Yeah, I'm from downstate. Sheriff down there for 4 terms. 15 years. I retired right before my last year was up. So.
Oh my! So now you took the position with the
I'm
state?
a police training specialist with them. I worked I was a warden at Lawrence Correctional Center for 6 years.
Oh my!
So I've been doing this for about 6 years, going on 7.
It's better than working as a sheriff?
You see any stress here?
Yeah?
Best job I've had since being sheriff.
Well, good.
Jan Noble, my comrade down there, he's a retired chief.
Okay. Here in Illinois, of course.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
What city is that?
Belvedere. Are you
Real?
recording?
Yeah. I'm a journalist. I'm always recording. I was just down in Belvedere. I actually, you know what? I was just in Belvedere last week or 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks
Talk
ago.
to him. Tell him to turn your recording off too while you talk. We'll get it all in.
Sorry about that. How's it going? I figured I'd make my rounds before the meeting starts. So you're the old chief for Belvedere, right?
Was that from your area?
No, I just went up there and visited the assistant chief up there, and I visited the post office up there. And I was investigating some issues with the department there. So.
Well, I've been retired for 3 years.
Yeah, you are on camera. Yeah, I forgot to tell you as I was walking up. I figured it was a given, but there you go.
No problem. So I'm curious, the post office well, they don't have an assistant chief. They have 2 deputy chiefs.
Deputy chiefs, I apologize.
Okay.
You're right.
So which of the 2 deputy chiefs did you meet with?
He gave me his name. I only spoke to him for maybe 60 seconds.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember. Man,
Well, no
He's
problem.
shorter guy, bald, or balding, kind of like me.
Deputy Chief Wallace?
I
Matt
think
Wallace?
that's
Yeah.
ringing a bell. But yeah, I had a pleasant, quick visit there, and then I am a journalist, and I go around and I record public officials to see how they react to a camera.
Oh,
So I'm sure you've heard of them before.
no, I have not.
You haven't?
So-
It's something new. I'm a First Amendment auditor.
Okay, First Amendment auditor.
Yep, and I basically go around and see how public officials react to the camera. And you'd be surprised with the reactions that I get sometimes from especially law enforcement with the cameras, which is kind of surprising because they all have body cams now, you know.
Oh, so are you wearing a special kind of camera?
I'm testing out the setup right here today. This is a double GoPro setup, and I had one of the newer ones, one of the
Right.
newer GoPros, but I had to send my $500 brick back because I lost an entire day's worth of work. And in fact, I actually lost, I believe I lost my body cam footage from Belvedere.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I lost a whole day's worth of work, so I go out and I'll get 7 hours worth of video in a day, and yeah, you could imagine having to go recatch the same criminals.
So your visit, then, were you able to garner what you were attempting to?
Yes, I was actually. You seem pretty upfront, honest, nice. I went there to the Belvedere Law Enforcement Center because I believe they have Sheriff's Department and City Police together.
That is correct.
And I went there to let them know I was essentially in town because I expected something to happen at the post office. The post office called Belvedere Police to that location, and this is an active criminal case, by the way, not involving me, but
Sure.
another videographer, and they arrested him on federal property. Yeah. They arrested him on federal property for trespassing, which I thought was odd because he was engaged in a constitutionally protected activity, which is videotaping
I see.
and reporting on postal employees. So I thought, oh, well, that's nice. Let's see if they act the same when I show up. So I showed up to that post office, and lo and behold, the postal employees were dead wrong about everything they said. I waited for police to show up to see if they were going to treat me the same way, and apparently Belvedere has got a good learning curve. They learned
Sure.
from that one arrest, and I'm sure that case will be dismissed. I hope it is. I hope that guy has an attorney that's worth a darn.
So I'm curious, was the person trespassing into a restricted area?
No, they were in the public lobby.
Public lobby,
In front of the cash counters. They actually took him outside when they placed him in cuffs. But he was in he was in the public lobby the entire time. So I was a little surprised by that.
So I'm curious, was the videographer, was he causing a ruckus or a stir?
There is an argument that could be made to that, but from my experience, when I walked in, and I've seen the video myself, and I had my experience, I think the postal employees drummed it up a bit,
I see.
and they worked them up. So if I say enough things to aggravate you, and you get angry at me and then yell, it's a little odd on who's really disturbing the peace, you know.
All right, well, good. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time today.
Yeah.
I'm here to be a sergeant at arms.
Awesome.
My counterpart is also watching that door.
Okay.
So if you have any questions during the day, you'll probably find me right here.
Okay.
And thank you for allowing me to say hello.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad I got to meet you. I didn't know. I thought that it was open to the public, so I just walked right on in and started getting some video of the nameplates.
Yeah.
Is it possible that I could go in there and finish up the nameplates before the meeting starts?
Check with Sergeant at Arms, the retired Sheriff
Okay.
Lee Riker.
Okay. Thank you very much.
He's my senior boss.
Awesome.
Lieutenant, how you doing?
Good, are you, sir?
Good to see you.
St. Clair County. How's it going?
Not too early?
No, the first meeting you'll be at 1 o'clock. The first one's 12 noon.
My first ride.
Yeah, he brought Rick up on this.
No, actually, we're driving separate because he's staying and I gotta go back. I'm leaving for Virginia in the morning.
Oh,
Main head sheriff going to be here today?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'd say he's a board member, right?
you got that turned off again?
Huh?
You got it on again?
Yeah, always.
He's a journalist, so
Gotcha.
Lieutenant, just kind of, when you talk, just kind of,
Yeah. I already met his undersheriff last month. You probably have heard of me.
Honestly, that.
Maybe not. I went and visited St. Clair County to do a vehicle maintenance audit about a month and a half ago. And I got to meet your undersheriff and a Sergeant Hendricks. You know him?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, he told me to come over here and ask you if I could make entry to video tape just the nameplates.
what did the attorney tell you?
The attorney said it was open to the public, and he didn't have any saying.
Up until the time it's closed?
Yeah, up until the time it's closed.
If that's what he told you, then I expect it's open.
Cool.
If he runs you out, then you're on your own.
What time are we on here?
Pardon?
I got 15 minutes. Can I get in there real quick?
No, let me ask John.
All right.
About 5 minutes, youngin.
Got 5 minutes? Awesome. Thank you.
Make sure you make him aware of who you are.
Okay.
Well, just south of there is Lewisburg, and that's where my daughter lives. Nice area. Sorry for each time. What's that? Sorry for each time. Oh, no worries. Well, I'm trying to think of, shouldn't think of going. No. No, no, no.
Leah.
Leah.
Yeah.
Have you heard from her about it?
I haven't talked to her since she left.
Have you heard from Leah at all?
No, I sent her a message. I know she's been engaged, but I've not heard any response from her.
And she's in Arizona now, is that right?
Yes. I texted her.
Yes, I can. Know that
Thank
Are
you.
you good?
Yep. I'm gonna have to go out to my car and get a hoodie. It's freezing cold in here. I used to travel the country doing tax conferences, so I'm used to the whole setup here. So I just walked right in. My mother and I taught tax law all across the U.S.
Yeah,
So-
law enforcement, it's just a different breed.
Yeah, I started reading criminal law, I want to say when I was 24 or 25.
Did you go to university?
Nope.
You have life experience, what I call that.
Yep, it is. Well, I was a troublemaker when I was a kid. Like I told you, Brent Fisher got me when I was a young one. So that was my first encounter with.
We've all been there, like I said. As I tell people, you don't look behind you. There's nothing there. Just keep moving forward.
Yep. Concentrate on.
Heavens, everybody's had a little misstep. No one's perfect.
No.
By no means. Sheriff?
Oh no. I can edit.
Last thing you want to see is me walking by.
Is it okay?
So this is open. So go ahead.
It is open?
Yeah, in the back.
Okay.
I might leave in the front for the board members. But like I said, if it's closed session, we'll have to dismiss everybody.
Oh, fine.
Great.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So I said that he's more than welcome to participate in the back.
Thanks.
Just make sure.
Are you guys expecting a full house here today?
No,
No.
this
Okay.
is about it.
Wow. You know, I find that odd because there's 11 million people in the state of Illinois. There's not many law enforcement officers. You think they're supposed to be loaded? I mean, these are the top cops, obviously.
I see the top load.
For you? Oh, I get a front row seat?
No, I'm a sergeant at arms. I gotta stay out here.
No, do I get a front row seat?
Oh, well, as soon as they go into executive session, they'll have to leave.
Oh, gotcha.
But you can sit anywhere you want.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Somebody bought those for me. I like it.
Call to order June 9th, 2021, special meeting of the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board. Can we please get a roll call?
Chief Mitchell Davis.
Present.
Director Sean Smoot.
Present.
Superintendent David Brown. Chief Anthony Cobb.
Present.
Sheriff Tom Stark. City Manager Tim Gleason.
Very difficult to hear anybody.
Yeah, I have a hard time hearing as well. Sheriff John Heidelberg.
Present.
Director Rob Jeffries.
Pat Conley, on behalf of Director Jeffries.
We can't hear them all. So if we can't hear them all, then we can't conduct the meeting.
No. Director Brendan Kelly.
Present, but who else is present?
Do you want me to start rolling?
Please.
Okay. Chief Mitchell Davis.
Present.
Director Sean Smoot.
Present.
Superintendent David Brown. Antonoto City on behalf of Superintendent David Brown. Chief Anthony Cobb.
Present.
Sheriff Tom Stark.
Chief Parks, Sheriff Dodd.
City Manager Tim Gleason.
Present.
Sheriff John Heidelberg.
Present.
Director Rob Jeffries.
Pat Conley, on behalf of Director Jeffries.
Director Brendan Kelly.
Present.
Clerk of the Circuit Court Iris Martinez.
Jorge Escamilla, proxy for Hood County Clerk Iris Martinez.
City Manager Gita Newkirk. Present. Mayor Timothy Nugent.
Present, but I'm having a hard time hearing.
Under Sheriff Ricardo Pagan.
Ricardo's here.
Mayor J.W. Price.
Present.
Attorney General Kwame Raoul.
Present. I can't hear you very clearly either.
Chief LaDon Reynolds.
Present.
Sheriff Richard Watson.
Here.
Chief Elvia Williams.
Here.
There's a quorum present.
Thank you. I will now entertain a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 142C1 for personnel matters.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Chief Reynolds, second by Director Smoot. We have a roll call, please.
Signage. Put it outside.
Chief Mitchell Davis. Superintendent David Brown.
What's this?
It's signage for visitors at the meeting.
Cool.
Just need a name and their affiliation.
Boy, they don't want their pen running off anywhere, do they?
What's that?
They don't want their pen running away anywhere, do they?
No, we've had a tendency to lose a few.
I worked in an office for years, so I'm a pen thief. I walk out and take the pen, and you'll never see it again.
Government pens, they disappear.
Okay. I put my channel name.
Thank you so much.
Yep. How long do you think rough guesstimate, how long do you think they'll be closed? Gotcha.
Next meeting's at 1.
Gotcha.
Guaranteed.
Thank you. How's it going? Would you be willing to do a short interview? No? I figured I'd let you know, I found a couple of typos on your mission statement. I think it's the second or third paragraph. You might want to take a look at that.
I haven't heard of that one.
Would you be willing to tell me what exactly the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board does?
What?
Not the point, no.
Okay, well, thank you for your time. Hey, I know it's been a while since you've been in Quincy, right?
Yeah,
Long time. Are you familiar with Jeff Baird,
I know him, yeah.
Sergeant? Is he a good cop?
As I know, I've known him for years, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for your time. Here, I'll give you a business card since I know you don't want to do an interview, but I highly suggest that you take the time to look up the video on my channel. It's titled Dirty Cop Plants Meth, and it's Sergeant Baird planting meth on me in 2019. I thought I'd share that with you.
Okay.
So he started lit a fire under my butt, so to speak. So I've been traveling the state of Illinois. I already visited Belvedere, which you got the Belvedere Chief Police there. I visited St. Clair County, and you got St. Clair County Sheriff in there. His, what was it, Chief Deputy or Undersheriff refused to identify himself last month. So I was curious, aren't they required to, aren't law enforcement officers required to identify themselves when asked by a member of the public?
I really don't feel like answering any questions right now, but I appreciate you inquiring.
Okay, well, thank you for your time, Brent. And do you remember arresting me years ago?
No, I don't.
You don't? If I clarify the incident, would it help?
No, that's all right.
All right.
I don't remember.
It's been like, I want to say it was 96 to 98 area. 98 was the last, you were still a deputy. I remember that, you're still a deputy. But anyway, thank you for your time. I know it's uncomfortable. Hey, seriously, watch that video though. That's Baird and Fulkenroth, and both of them were involved in it.
Okay, at 12:15, we will start the meeting. This is the quarterly meeting of the Curriculum and School Standards Advisory Committee. May I have a call to order? And now roll call, please.
Chief Ladon Reynolds.
Present.
City Manager Dee Newkirk.
Present.
Superintendent David Brown.
Deputy Chief Antoinette City on behalf of Superintendent Brown.
Sheriff Thomas Dart.
Chief Parks on behalf of Sheriff Dart.
Chief Anthony Child.
Present.
Director Rob Jeffries. Under Sheriff Ricardo Pecan.
Thank you. Okay, first up we have the application for school course certification. I'll direct to Councilor Griffin.
The Illinois Sheriff's Association has sent in 2 courses that they would like to have certified. You can find those behind the agenda. They're asking that those be certified.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there discussion?
I do. I have a question. Can you just clarify the second training of legal legislative update? Is that for supervisors only? If it's not, I just question the value of specifically like, see other for non-supervisors.
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
That's okay. I think your mic is on the same time I'm talking, so you may want to just mute your mic. Okay, can you hear me okay? Oh, yes, perfect, thank you. The second training that's reflected, the legal legislative update, can you just identify if that training is for non-supervisors? If it is, I just question if there's value in having specifically, there's like PETA and SEBA benefits and information in there, and I just wonder the value of that for non-supervisors.
I don't know the answer if it was just supervising the trainer or not. We can find out.
Kelly, I'm here for.
Okay, if you don't
All
mind.
right, I'm sorry. We have somebody who might be able to answer that question. Thank you.
Is this on? That particular legal law update was almost solely specifically on House Bill 3653 with sheriffs only.
Perfect, okay, thank you very much.
I just had one quick thing too. We had actually submitted a third class on the Vermont Center for Officer Wellness. It was a 2-hour course that's in my letter, but I don't see it on the agenda today.
I believe it was approved. I believe that one was approved through Lenham.
Okay, very good.
But let me double check on that. And if not, then we'll bring it in September.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion?
Newkirk, I'll make a motion.
Cobb, second.
Can I have a roll call?
LaDon Reynolds,
Yes.
Gita Newkirk,
Yes.
David Brown,
Yes.
Thomas Starr,
Yes, for Sheriff Dart.
Anthony Cobb,
Yes.
Rob Jeffries,
Yes, for Rob Jeffries.
Ricardo Alcantara. Motion passes.
Okay, motion passes. Second thing up is from the Chicago Police Department. We have 5 items related to training, de-escalation, and also officer wellness, custodial escort, and community policing. Council Griffin.
I believe we have someone from Chicago PD. Thank you, Mayor, for this up.
And can you also please identify yourself when you step to the mic? Thank you.
And as she's walking up, just for the committee, there are several pages describing each one of those trainings in the actual tab. The curriculum had a number of pages, and so it was included in a thumb drive in an envelope that was in your binder. So you can look at the full curriculum also.
I'm sorry, I'm from Chicago Police Department.
Any questions, any discussion? Do you have any comments, Sergeant, related to this curriculum, or does it, the information we have speak for itself?
It speaks for itself. It should.
Thank you. Okay, with that, do I have a motion? Second?
Chief Cobb, second.
Okay, and a vote, please.
LaDon Reynolds,
Yes.
Gita Newkirk,
Yes.
David Brown,
Yes for Superintendent Brown.
Thomas Starr,
Yes, for Sheriff Dart.
Anthony Cobb,
Yes.
Rob Jeffries.
Yes, for Rob
Motion passes.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank you.
Next up, do we have any unfinished business? Okay, moving right along to new business. Council Griffin.
Again, behind tab F, same tab, and there is a list of the in-service training courses that were completed during March through May of 2021 through the mobile team units at the Executive Institute, and we would ask that those courses be certified.
Okay. Any discussion?
Stark,
Yes, Sheriff Dart.
Anthony Cobb,
Yes.
Rob Jeffries.
Yes, you are.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Moving right along, council.
Under new business, Part B, approval of the lead homicide investigators 32 hours continuing education courses. Those were submitted from March of 2021 to May of 2021, so we're just asking if those courses be approved.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion?
I move for approval.
May I have a second? Okay, Michelle, please.
LaDon Reynolds,
Yes.
Keita Newkirk,
Yes.
David Brown. Yes, for Superintendent Brown. Thomas Stark,
Yes, Sheriff Dart.
Anthony Cobb,
Yes.
Rob Jeffries.
Yes, Rob Jeffries.
Motion passes.
Thank you, council.
Thank you. Under new business subsection C, you will find behind tab F, the recommendations for revisions, part-time to full-time, 80-hour transition course in law for police, a report that was prepared by the Project for Public Safety and Justice Institute for Legal, Legislative, and Policy Studies at the University of Illinois Springfield. That project, or this report, summarizes the first part of the work that they've been tasked to do in improving various curriculum for the board. It summarizes the research and literature review of the evidence-based law enforcement training, and the team at UIS made recommendations for both the transition course, which is the course officers take when they are transitioning from part-time to full-time positions. They also made recommendations for the law for police course, which is the course for Illinois law enforcement who've been out of the profession for several years and is also used for out-of-state reciprocity. They also made recommendations for the equivalency exam, which is the exam used for those who come to Illinois from out of state and to be law enforcement here in Illinois. The recommendations for the transition course can be found on pages 7 and 8. The recommendations for the law for police equivalency exam are found on page 9. And then there's a full summary of the recommendations, of all the recommendations on pages 11 through 12. I'm asking the committee to accept these recommendations and allow the board to move forward in its work with UIS on these various, these three topics. It's work that will be done in conjunction with the project, updating the basic law enforcement curriculum, the basic correctional officer curriculum, and also the court security officer training. I recognize the report is long, so if the board decides they want to wait until September to entertain a motion, that's also acceptable, but we do want to put this report forward and let the curriculum consider the recommendations.
Thank you, council. Any discussion on this? Okay, do we want to table this or do we want to move forward? Do I have a motion to move forward?
I recommend that we move forward for approval on this item. Chief Cobb.
Do I have a second?
Pat Conley, a second.
Michelle?
LaDon Reynolds,
Yes.
Keita Newkirk,
Yes.
David Brown. Yes, for Superintendent Brown. Thomas Stark,
Yes, Sheriff Dart.
Anthony Cobb,
Yes.
Rob Jeffries.
Yes, Rob Jeffries.
Motion passes.
Thank you, council.
Thank you. Under new business D, the update on curriculum changes with the Safety Act and the trailer bill, which is House Bill 3443, Senate Amendment 5. I want to give a brief update on both the basic law enforcement academy curriculum, the changes, and then also the changes to the in-service mandates. So with the new Safety Act and then the trailer bill, which has passed both houses, and we anticipate that it will be signed, the changes to the basic law enforcement curriculum as mandated topics added to the Police Training Act that will include crisis intervention training, at least 12 hours of hands-on scenario-based role-playing, at least 6 hours of use of force techniques, including de-escalation, specific training on officer safety techniques, including cover, concealment, and time, and at least 6 hours of training on high-risk traffic stops. As I stated earlier, many of you are aware of the BLE curriculum along with the basic correctional officer and the court security officer curriculum. They're currently being revised and updated by the UIS team. Fortunately, almost all of these parts in this new law are a part of the 560-hour BLE curriculum. The UIS team is working to review those mandates and incorporate any changes that are necessary. These changes, the specific ones I just read, they would become effective January 1 of 22. So the plan is those changes would become a part of the new curriculum that hopefully will be rolled out later this year for academies to begin using in 22. The more pressing issue for the academies and frankly all law enforcement were the changes that are effective July 1 of this year, basically in a few weeks. I began a review of the trailer bill last week as soon as it passed to analyze the legal changes that impact the training both for basic training and in-service training. The main topics impacted by the Safety Act and the trailer bill are use of force, rights of the accused, criminal offenses, which includes new offenses and some changes to already existing offenses. The change in the use of force law is effective July 1, and some of the others are, we have some various effective dates. Some are January 1 of 22, some are January 1 of 23. Early next week, I'll be sending information to the academies with the changes that are effective July 1. I'm currently working on that document, and that needs to go to the academies, both part-time and full-time immediately, so they can begin incorporating those changes in the curriculum. Again, any of the changes that I identified that are effective until January 22, those will be formally added into the basic law enforcement curriculum that's being reviewed by the UIS team. And additionally, obviously the July effective dates, any changes for those will also be included. Additionally, the changes that are effective July 1 are pressing to the board because not only do we have to update that curriculum, but also the test bank. And we have some classes that have already begun, but they're not going to finish until after the law changes July 1. We do have one academy that's graduating July 2nd. So we had to make a decision about the test bank, and how we were going to handle that. For the class that's graduating July 2nd, they will have had almost entirely all of their training on what will July 1st become outdated law. They will take the current exam that we have because that's what their training was based on. Any other classes that are going to be taking the exam for basic law enforcement after July 1, that exception, they will be getting a revised exam because we will obviously have to update those use of force test questions. And so it's obviously had some challenges in trying to identify how we were going to handle this, but we thought that was the best, that if the academies have at least a month to train on this new use of force, they need that training anyway, and that's the training that we recommend that they be tested on. I also want to mention again that the basic correctional officer and court security officer curriculum are under review by UIS. Again, anything that impacts law enforcement or the correctional officer, court security officer training, we will be sending that information out next week so they can make those changes and move forward. We anticipate that the new curriculum for the BLE will be available or be starting in 22. They're currently completing the job task analysis for both the correctional officer training and the court security officer training. So we anticipate that will be done in the near future, and then actual substantive changes to the curriculum will begin probably late summer. So they're working on those projects at the same time. So I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions about any of the basic training before I move to the in-service.
Any questions?
I just got one question. I know the basic training say you're going to put out next week, are we going to publish that information as well so the departments can look at it and know what's going out? If they wanted to look at the information tied to the service, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But is it possible just to make it public, or we're just going to leave it to the basic academies, go get it with the rest? If anyone else was interested, they have opportunity to see it.
That's a good question. Because I think everybody, I mean, I get calls all the time, you know, that are saying, how's this going to impact, because it's not just those in the academy, but it's officers who are on the street, so we'll make that summary available and let the board know.
I appreciate it. Manager Kirk.
Thank you. Outside of the academy, my understanding, de-escalation training, you may want to just mute yourself, right? Perfect, thanks. My understanding is outside of the academy, de-escalation training is only available to officers after 1 year of employment. So I don't know if is that true, and then if that is, does that change with any of the new regulations taking effect in the future?
I'm not aware of any sort of requirement that they have to have a year before they would be allowed that sort of training. It is currently in the curriculum. There will be more added to the curriculum, so those recruits will be getting additional hours of training in the area of de-escalation. And I would think as long as their agency allows them to go to training, there's nothing that says that they have to have a year before they can take that sort of training through the MTU or other training organizations.
Perfect. Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks for your report.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion?
Just a point of clarification, City Manager Newkirk, is that making reference to CIT training? There was some time, there was language where you had to have a certain amount of experience before you could go there, and I think that's what you may be asking around, is the mental health aspect, not necessarily de-escalation. If I could just
clarify. Okay. You're right, yeah, I think that is correct. So is that still the case? For CIT training?
Right. For CIT training, we tend to look for at least 2 years past their date of certification, so they have some street experience before they take that class. That's the 40-hour full CIT class with an element of de-escalation included in there. However, there are several other de-escalation-based classes that don't have that requirement. And I believe those are continuing to be offered to the MTUs and even the online institute.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, counsel.
All right, changes to the in-service mandates. The trailer bill did change the effective date of those in-service mandates to January 1 of 22. It was great news because it allows us additional time to update the training guidelines and make necessary changes to our LEDO, which is what the MTUs use, the database, to enter those courses, and beginning January 1st of next year, we'll have to begin tracking hours. So there are structural changes that have to take place in our system so that the MTUs can go in and add those courses and account for the hours. The trailer bills have both houses. We have some clarification on the new mandates, so we can begin to work diligently with the MTUs to ensure there's plenty of course offerings. I can tell you I took over Pat Hahn's job duties on March 1st, and it's been a pleasure working with all of the MTU directors, including the new ones coming in, and they're all very eager to get moving on getting this training going. And so we really appreciated the clarification in the trailer bill with what is going to be expected. So there will be 30 hours required every 3 years for certain topics. There will be some annual mandates, and the use of force is going to be 24 hours. And again, we'll be talking about that more later with the MTUs, but I also, if the committee wants, I do have a handout that kind of breaks down the two laws together so you can see what those mandates look like.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Counsel.
As to the issue of electronic testing, that's something we've explored for years. I want to note that we're making some progress on that. We've been talking with the procurement office as well as some ethical issues clarifying regarding intergovernmental agreements getting cleared up throughout the state. So we understand that we may be able to enter into an agreement with one of the state universities to establish an electronic testing program so we can finally move into that arena. I know we've discussed it several times, and so we hope to have an update by the September meeting that we have an agreement in process for that.
Thank you, Council. Moving on.
On the court security issue, let me just first clarify, this was Senate Bill 337 that was recently passed by both chambers and will await the governor's signature. This bill affected only the Supreme Court Marshal's office. Supreme Court Marshals have been in existence for a long time. If you recall, about 7 years ago, they came to us making sure that they were officially deemed law enforcement officers and went through the certification and waiver process that is associated with that. Recently, they reached out to us wanting to make sure they can employ court security officers under the different element of certification as well. We had some discussions with them. We have helped them craft a bill that was originally passed at the end of last year, and then had to get refiled this week to be passed by both chambers. So we expect the governor to sign that to be passed into law, and we expect that the Supreme Court Marshals will have a few individuals leading a court security course. The court security course has not been put on for several years, as there hasn't been much need for it. But now that we have a handful of officers leading that, we're looking into options to do that in the near future. We also know, as Kelly mentioned, that the court security program has been under review by UAS, and so we're not sure if we may have those that new course knocked out to be available for these individuals, or if we can work with something already in existence. But nevertheless, that's on our radar at the moment.
Thank you. Any discussion related to electronic testing or court security training? Any questions? Okay, moving on. Next board meeting date and location is June 10th, 2021 here in Springfield. And the next curriculum, school, and standards advisory committee meeting is September 8th, 2021 in Decatur. With that, I want to make a motion, listen to any motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Can I get a second?
Second, Kirk.
Okay, Michelle.
LaDon Reynolds,
Yes.
Keita Newkirk,
Yes.
David Brown,
Yes, for Superintendent Brown.
Thomas Dart,
Yes, Michelle Carter.
Anthony Cobb,
Yes.
Rob Jeffries.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, stand adjourned.
Legislative committee to work.
Chief Mitchell Davis. Director Sean Smoot.
Present.
City Manager Tim Gleason. Director Brendan Kelly. Mayor J.W. Price. Sheriff Richard Watson. Chief Elvia Williams. Here. Sheriff John Eidelberg.
Present.
Clerk of the Circuit Court Iris Martinez. Mayor Tim Nugent.
Present.
Attorney General Kwame Raoul.
John Carroll for General Raoul.
We have a quorum of the Finance and Legislative Committee.
Thank you. This will be a short meeting. I'd like to ask Denise Matthew to come up and present the fiscal reports.
Excuse me, this is Under Sheriff Ricardo McMahon. I think I missed my name called.
We don't see you on this committee, County Sheriff.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was a standard curriculum.
Nope, that committee just adjourned a few minutes ago.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. The fiscal year 21 quarterly report as of May 27th is contained in tab G. Page 1 shows in red the monthly traffic criminal conviction surcharge fund deposits for the first 10 months of fiscal year 21 up through May 5th for a total of $9,428,959.55. The report also shows in blue the comparison for the same 10-month period of fiscal year 20. Since this report, 2 deposits were received on June 8th for a total of $769,695, bringing our total through May 26th to $10,198,695. This results in a difference of $2,605,327 less than the same fiscal period last year. The current balance in our fund, with the addition of these 2 deposits, is $1,702,323.79. The chart on page 3 shows the 3-year comparison and the decreases in monthly revenue from 2019 to 2021 due to the changes in the way they calculate the traffic surcharge fund deposits. And the chart on page 5 shows the comparative revenue from fiscal year 1996 to 2021. On page 6, in red, is the camera grant fund for the same first 10-month period for a total of $1,225,042. And blue, this comparison of the same period for fiscal year 20. We had 2 additional deposits also into this fund on June 8th for a total of $91,928, bringing our total deposits through May 26th to $1,316,969. This resulted in a difference of $369,096 for the same period last fiscal year. And then the chart on page 8 is the comparison of revenues from 2007 to 2021 into the camera grant fund, which also includes the interest deposits. On page 9, in red, is the interest for the first 10 months of $5,528, and in blue, the same period for fiscal year 20. We did not receive any additional interest deposits, so the balance difference of $35,614 less than last year remains the same. The current balance in the camera grant fund is $2,839,859.84. This concludes this portion of the report. Do I have any questions?
This is Chief Williams from Richmond Park. So with the camera grant, are you still awarding the grants to the various police departments or law enforcement agencies?
The camera grant application program ended accepting applications on May the 15th, and we are now making awards, and we will start paying some of the departments once they send in all the final paperwork, hopefully this week.
Okay, so have they been notified that they would need to send in the final paperwork to get the grant?
Everyone who sends in an application, we are in constant contact with them, advising them of what items are missing in their package. Once they are given a notice of award, they get an email informing them that they've been given a notice of award and what information needs to be submitted.
Okay, so another question I have is, so with these added costs, the added training that law enforcement officers will have to have, how does that look as it relates to the current funding that we have?
Regarding the camera grant or overall?
Overall, because I guess I'm looking at this at the chart. And so we're still underfunded at this point?
Correct.
Okay, so up to date?
That will continue in my next portion of my report.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, the second part is the projected enrollment and tuition. So on page 11 shows our projected academy based on fiscal year 21 enrollment. I changed the format of this report to better show the three-year comparison that was requested at the March meeting. Page 13 shows the same information in a graph form with the number of officers enrolled, and page 14 is the same information in a graph form by tuition costs. These figures are based on the actual course enrollment and projected claims costs. With the elimination of the direct billing, we have an increase in the number of claims that have been filed by police departments. These claims are not paid until the state of Illinois lapse period, which normally runs from July 1st through August 31st. However, today I was informed by the comptroller's office that they have again extended the lapse period to end on September 30th. Once we have all of the claim forms that are submitted up through July the 15th, we work in the last month of lapse, so this year will be in September, and based on the amount of funding we have available determines if we are able to pay the reimbursement claims at 100% or a lesser amount. Last year we paid the claims at 75% of the reimbursement amount that was eligible. Is there any other questions on this part of my presentation?
Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you. The next section is the legislative budget. On May 31st, the budget was approved by the legislature for fiscal year 22. As of today, it has still not been signed by the governor. Page 15 shows the comparison between our fiscal year 21 and 22 budgets based on what has been determined to be needed for the increases in the police reform bill. They are moving all of our operational costs to the general revenue fund. The main change on the current budget compared to the March board meeting that was presented is an additional $8 million was given to us out of general revenue funds. Basically, it is only earmarked for crisis intervention training and mental health awareness. This is being provided through a federal grant that the Governor's Office of Budget and Management applied for on our behalf through the American Rescue Plan Act. We have not been awarded this grant yet, so this money is only conditional of receiving the grant and upon the Governor's approval. Our head count remained at the 40 that was from the March meeting. So with the addition, our current budget increase is now $511,400 of a total budget of $52,025,600. Of that amount, $21,325,600 is general revenue funds, with $5,325,600 being allocated to our operations and the remaining $16 million being allocated for training only by approval of the governor. This means that the only funding we are currently guaranteed is the $5,325,600 for operations. The remaining funding is all dependent on what comes into the traffic surcharge fund and what is allocated from the governor under the general revenue of the two $8 million allotments. Are there any questions on the fiscal year 22 budget?
Seeing none.
And finally, the last item I have is the half-year funding for fiscal year 22. It is customary at the June meeting for the board to approve a half-year budget since funding is still not known due to the traffic surcharge and the changes that have been made. So on page 17, you can see that we are recommending a half-year funding of $4,372,500, and it breaks out to be $3 million for the MTUs, $500,000 for Executive Institute, $500,000 for Crisis Intervention Training, $200,000 for the Chicago Police Department in-service training, $122,500 for our Computer Crime Institute, and $50,000 for professional associations. Do we have any questions on this portion?
Okay, so what is professional associations?
I would have to look at that up and get back with you on that. I don't have the list with me.
I can jump in on that real quick. That covers our IADLIT membership, and I believe it covers, I think, the bar memberships for the lawyers in the office. I'm trying to think if there's any others that come to mind, but there are a few of those. I believe, though, those never top more than 5,000, 6,000, Denise?
Correct. If there are no other questions, I believe I need a motion to approve this.
I would make a motion that we approve the first and second quarter funding.
Second. All in favor? We need a roll call. Sorry, roll call, please.
Mitchell Davis?
Yes.
Sean Smoot?
Yes.
Elvia Williams?
Yes.
John Eilbert?
Yes.
Tim Nugent?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Denise. Just a couple of comments from the chair. Both Chairman Davis and I were intimately involved in the negotiations of the trailer bill for the police reform bill that was passed in January. And pretty much have been in constant contact with the bill sponsors even prior to January and to date. Really pounding, beating the drum on funding for the board. And while this, appropriation budget is certainly welcome, I think it's important for everybody to understand that a good deal of the increases are contingent on traffic ticket and conviction surcharge funding, which has never netted or generated anywhere close to the type of, not even half of what's being proposed in terms of our appropriation. So we continue to talk to the General Assembly and the Governor's Office about additional funding sources, and we're very hopeful that by January we'll have some additional funding streams that are more reliable than those funds. So I just want folks to be aware of that. Legislative report. John.
Thank you. Picking up right where Denise left off, Senate Bill 2800 was the budget bill. As you heard mentioned, there's officially $26 million appropriated to the board, but from various different funds, the number sometimes appears bigger. I'm glad Denise mentioned the $8 million for the special ARPA request that is currently pending with the Governor's Office of Management and Budget. That is for special state agency projects related to mental health and peer support programs. And we think we may stand a good chance of getting some of that. We may have to work with other state agencies to work collectively to get that, but we're optimistic that the work that we do in those areas puts us in a strong position to get that. Senate Bill 2017 was the BIM bill, the Budget Implementation Bill, and it's notably important there that a new fund was created, the Law Enforcement Training Fund, which will collect a portion of existing insurance producer insurance producer licenses fees, as well as fees collected by insurance agents for each policy issued. These funds will be used by the board to support law enforcement certification compliance and the development and provision of basic courses by the board approved academies and in-service programs. While the initial calculations are still being done to determine the amounts that these funds are expected to generate, we believe it will exceed the 10 to 15 million that we're usually getting from the surcharge fund now. So we're optimistic that that new fund could support the board's operations and perhaps one day help us get off the general revenue funds that we've been given in the last couple of years to keep us afloat. So we'll keep our eye on that and provide more updates as calculations come in. On that note, it's also worth mentioning that Senate Bill 626 regarding the fines and fees was an initiative to extend the current waivers of criminal fines and fees to traffic offenses as well. After some initial calculations, it was determined that those could be really detrimental to not only the surcharge fund, but other state operations and local county municipal operations that rely on those funds. And so several discussions were had amongst the stakeholders, and the ultimate bill merely creates a pilot project for Cook County to allow those reductions that you see for criminal offenses to apply to traffic as well. However, they are limited to half. So under criminal fines, you can get a full reduction, while under traffic, you'll be limited to a half reduction of what the fine or fee is. And it's only in place for 2 years, so we can see, hopefully with some reports, as to how effective or how useful that was as it was played out there. Mentioning the safety trailer bill, this was House Bill 3443. The bill did a lot of interesting things to the law enforcement community, but from the board's perspective, there were 3 main ones that we want to bring to your attention. The first is the clarification of the CIT course and the crisis intervention requirement in the underlying bill passed in January. We were able to work with the sponsors and make it clear that the 40-hour team training course is distinct from the crisis intervention mandate. The crisis intervention mandate will typically be met by any course that meets the general requirements, as well as the full CIT course. So we think that some courses of about 8 hours in length or some online courses will meet that requirement. I know a lot of agencies were interpreting that to be that every officer was going to need the full 40-hour CIT. But we want to make absolutely clear that clarification in the trailer bill indicates that will be the case. The 30-hour requirement for in-service mandates was also adjusted a little bit to make it more clear that the 30-hour is what officers are to be expected to meet within the 3-year period. We adjusted that a little bit so the use of force requirements and specific hours will still remain. However, the 30 hours is what the objective is for each officer during that period. That makes it fall in line with other state mandated training requirements, such as for lawyers and other professions, so that at the beginning of the period, the individual knows what the objective is. So happy to see that. And finally, the changes to the 1-year and 3-year in-service mandates were pushed back an additional 6 months. So while we must update the curriculum for the academies right away for the July 1st implementation date, other in-service mandates are pushed back to January 1st, giving us more time to create those guidelines, make sure the MTUs are rolling out new courses, and be able to move forward with that. Several other bills that we were tracking throughout the session did not get enough steam to get over the finish line. Nevertheless, we'll keep our eye on those in case they pop up again in the future. And that's essentially the end of the legislative report. I have to take any questions.
Any questions from the committee members? Seeing none. Thanks, John. In addition to the finance and legislative, we're asked to do kind of a personnel update, and I'm going to ask Ellen, would you be willing to go through this?
Sure.
Thanks. You want my chair? Okay. For those of you following along with the tabs, it's tab H. There's a special committee, personnel committee that I'm chairing. And we've been really actively, aggressively posting positions and moving to fill positions ahead of the tasks that will be required to do come January. So Ellen, who all of you I think probably know you should, has taken a huge role in HR for the board and is doing a great job for the past couple months. So that's kind of been her focus. So Ellen, would you please just walk us through this? certainly ask it.
Okay. So the approved headcount for FY21, the fiscal year we're currently in, is 25. We've never been up to that amount because of the funding issues we've been having. A lot of the hiring had been put on hold. However, with the passage of the police reform bill, we've been trying to get up to that point, which, if anybody knows anything about hiring in the state of Illinois, takes a little bit of time. So the Personnel Committee, which was appointed around the time of the March board meeting, has met bi-weekly since then and will continue to do so until we are, I guess, pretty well on our way to filling all those positions. We've been working on putting together an organizational chart, which is sort of our goal for an overall headcount of 85 once all is said and done for the board. So we're talking a significant increase in staffing of the board. It's going to take a while to get there. It takes a long time to hire. So currently we are at 19 employees. We are at 17 as of March 1st. The approved headcount for FY22, which we're hoping to be able to reach by the end of FY22, is 40. And then it will probably take us a couple of years, if not a little more, to get up to the headcount of 85. I believe Director Fisher was told by GOFUNDME that we're going to leave the headcount at 40 for now, but once we get up to that point, we can request additional headcount at that time. So I guess not putting the cart before the horse. Part of the organizational chart was to put together a list of the positions that would be high priority to fill. And so there are 13 of those that have been, the job descriptions have been written. There are various stages of the process. When we write a job description, we have to send it into CMS certification or classifications. They have to sign off on it. We sometimes have to make some adjustments, and then different positions have to go to different things beyond that. Sometimes they have to go to the Civil Service Commission. Sometimes they can be posted right away. In the middle of all of this that's going on, which is, you know, a big undertaking anyway, the state of Illinois is also transferring from the current way of doing things to a new human capital management system, which is a whole new software. We're transferring data. We're having to get everything updated. So that's kind of in the middle of this. That's all going on too. So it's taking a little bit of time. Currently, I have 13 of the high priority positions are written and in various stages, and we're waiting on approval for some of those. We've had several postings. One posting for an IT position we posted back in February. We ended up with 0 candidates who were qualified, so we had to close that down, repost it. Luckily, we just received word today that we have a possible new hire, which will hopefully start with us July 1, so Andrew will be able to get a little bit of assistance in the IT department. And of course, part of that was bringing on Michelle as the director's secretary and Jeff Chapman as the confidential assistant. So if anybody needs to know what those jobs are or has any questions, I'm happy to answer those questions. We do have on our website information on where you can go to see any of the jobs that are posted online. Currently, the most recent one just closed this last weekend, so there's nothing up there right now, but as soon as I've got 4 positions I'm waiting on that I hope to hear from right away, as soon as we get those, we'll get those posted. And there's a little bit of a different thing as far as applying for jobs. There are merit comp jobs which require a resume and everything is done online. There are the bargaining unit positions for the union jobs. And all of that is the old paper process still. They haven't quite gone through the new process yet. So if anybody does apply for any jobs that are posted, if you will read the instructions in each individual job posting and follow those instructions, that's super helpful. And currently, the next stage is doing the sort of the second tier that's going to try and get us up to that 40. And I will be starting writing those job descriptions as soon as I possibly can, hopefully in the next week. That's all I have. We do have the organizational chart in the board book for the board members to look at. I think that we can, I don't think that's private, we can probably share that information if anybody wants that.
But there's also been a map developed, which is the district map for the field investigators under the expansion of the board. And we have that map as well that shows the breakdown of how many field reps or investigators we will have in each area of the state, and sort of how that decision was made as far as that map being developed. And that's what I have. If anybody is interested in reading the minutes of all of those meetings that we've been having, they are posted on the website if you're just really curious. That's all I have.
And they are riveting reading. Let me tell you, I really want to read those minutes, especially the trouble sleeping. Do we have any new business? We have a couple of unfinished business items, John. Are you going to cover this reform update? I think you kind of already did it in your legislative report. You've also got a camera grant update.
In addition to what Denise mentioned earlier about the camera grant program, I just want to give a brief update and explain what the numbers are. During this grant period, which is open through April and May, close to May 15th, I think it opened in March actually, I think there's a full 8 weeks to apply. We received over 130 applications representing all VMTUs. So happy to see that we did get applications throughout the whole state. 15 of the applicant agencies have red light cameras, which will make it an automatic disqualification. Nevertheless, of those that remain, requests exceed 3.4 million. That's, I think, the highest we may have seen yet so far. 17 agencies have already been approved to receive awards of approximately around $800,000. Another 17 are awaiting final review, and several others are in process. So about a third are already moving forward. As usual, approximately 1/3 of the other applicant agencies have some kind of officer who's not compliant with the training mandate. In those situations, staff works with the individual agency to let them know which officers are involved and helps them arrange for courses to make sure that they're meeting their annual and triennial mandates. That's essentially one of the only methods of putting some teeth in those requirements is when agencies apply for their camera grants. So we usually are pretty successful with those, so we hope to have more of those moving forward soon. Otherwise, if you can't make the deadline or back out for some other reason, our goal is to maximize the benefits of the program. Therefore, at tomorrow's meeting, I'll respectfully ask for a motion for the full board to raise the previously approved amount from $2.25 million to $2.75 million for the remainder of the fiscal year. The amount in the fund is currently just above that, so I think that's a healthy amount to ask for, and I do think that the $3.4 million requested, after some reductions on there, will be close to about that $3 million, so I think that's a good amount. If I get word from Denise that the fund gets another deposit soon, I'll raise that. So, the BIP bill, the budget implementation bill, state universities were included to now be eligible for those camera grants. It's currently only limited to municipalities and counties, which does, really restrict a number of law enforcement agencies throughout the state. And I've had conversations with universities about this, so I'm happy that we made this comment at some point throughout the legislative process over the last couple of years. It made someone's radar and was able to get into that BIP bill. So as of next year, even state universities can get the camera grants.
Thanks, John. Any questions?
Yes, this is Elvie. I have a question. So are you saying that any jurisdiction that has red light cameras cannot get the camera grant?
Yes, that's an administrative rule that goes back to around 2004, around the time when the red light cameras became kind of popular and it became legislatively authorized. The issue behind that is that those citations do not go through the standard fines and fees structure that would put money into the camera grant fund. And so because of that, the board at that time created that special ineligibility for those towns that decided to work with those cameras.
So the board, as in this board or another board?
This board, through administrative rule, did that. That's something that we have the chance, and I'll actually mention tomorrow that we'll be changing a lot of administrative rules. I'd like to explore the possibility of making that a factor of consideration rather than an outright prohibition. So I'll mention that tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, I don't have anything new business. Is there any new business? Calling for new business twice, 3 times. The chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Williams.
Sheriff Everett.
Second.
Need a roll call?
Mitchell Davis,
Yes.
Sean Smoot,
Yes.
Sylvia Williams,
Yes.
John Heidelberg,
Yes.
Tim Nugent.
Yes.
Motion passes.
We are adjourned. Thank you, folks. Be safe.
Microphone check. Check, check. It's now 9 o'clock. Please remember to silence your cell phones. Thank you.
Call to order the quarterly meeting of the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board. Michelle, please make the public meeting announcement.
This is a public meeting of the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board. Chapter 50, Act 705, Sections 1 through 12 of the Illinois compiled statutes has allowed for the creation of the board. It has defined its functions, powers, duties, and responsibilities. The board is directed by the Act to meet a minimum of 4 times per year, and this meeting constitutes one of the 4 regularly scheduled quarterly meetings. Consistent with state statute and administrative directive, this meeting has been announced to the general public by being posted on the board's website. The meeting agenda has been properly published and distributed. Excuse me. For purposes of facilitating the conduct of an orderly meeting, we intend to follow the published agenda so that we may complete our business in a timely manner. The meeting agenda allows for public input. This board encourages public comment and opinion that is both relevant to the business of this board and is directed toward fostering improvement of law enforcement training in this state. If you wish to address the board during this meeting, please advise the executive director of your name and the nature of your input. He will then forward the request to the chairman for consideration and approval. Thank you for attending this meeting. Your interest in the business of the board is appreciated.
Thank you. We now have the posting of the colors by the Springfield Police Honor Guard, Sergeant Matt Dawes, Officer Royce Shamhart, Officer Mike Vogel, and Officer Chris Vollmer. Everyone please stand.
Forward. Mark. High guard. Hold. Right. Face. Post. Color. Freeze in. Arm.
We will now have the national anthem by the Lanphier Lions, and they have reminded us that they wish for everyone to participate in the singing of the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched, first
allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arm. Right. Face. Order. Arm.
We will now have a moment of silence for our fallen officers. Thank you. You may be seated. Before we call the pastor up to do the invocation, can we give a round of applause to those young ladies for that? Also to our dear God. Now we will have our invocation by a gentleman who had the honor of just meeting. Pastor William Deshaun Rosser is going to come before us and give us our invocation. Pastor.
Join me, if you would, in a word of prayer. Creator God, we thank you for this opportunity again to open our eyes and behold your creation. We thank you that we've been able to move forward, that 3 months, 6 months, 1 year ago, we were not able to meet even in this forum. But you've opened the wheels of heaven and you've allowed healing to occur. We thank you for your many blessings, too many to count, too many to reconcile even in this moment. But we appreciate everything that you allow us to experience. And now as the day goes, we ask that you bring wisdom into the room. Allow these peacemakers that you determine them to be, the children of God, to go about this business in a way that honors you, that puts its arms around each respective community that is represented. Most of all, God, it elevates us to a new platform where the kingdom of God can be here on earth as we work toward it, as you have told us to do. We thank you for all things. It is in the blessed and matchless name of Jesus Christ that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. We will now have a roll call for the establishment of the quorum. Michelle, please.
Chief Mitchell Davis.
Present.
Director Sean Smith.
Present.
Superintendent David Brown. Deputy Chief Antonetter City on behalf of Superintendent Brown. Chief Anthony Cobb.
Present.
Sheriff Tom Stark. Sheriff Dart.
Chief Parks, we can't hear you if you're trying to say something. Are you unmuted? Okay, we can't hear you. Hold on 1 second, Chief Parks. Okay, try it again, Chief Parks. I see your box lighting up, but we can't hear you. Give us a thumbs up, Chief.
City Manager Tim Gleason.
He's excused.
Sheriff John Ellsworth,
Present.
Director Rob Jeffries,
Patrick Connolly for Rob Jeffries.
Director Brendan Kelly, Director Kelly, Clerk of the Circuit Court Iris Martinez,
I see a box light up back there. You can't see behind that. Drop down menu. So for right now, until we get out.
City Manager Gina Newkirk.
He's there we go. Thanks, Gina.
Okay. Mayor Timothy Nugent. Under Sheriff Ricardo Pagan. Mayor J. Edwin Price.
Present.
Attorney General Kwame Raoul. Chief Lenore Reynolds.
Present.
Sheriff Richard Watson.
Here.
Chief Elvia Williams.
So I see Chief Williams, I see Ricardo Pagan, and who do we have on top next to Gina?
We have a quorum.
Okay, so we do have a quorum, thank you. And they're still working on our AV stuff, folks that are here virtually. We'll keep moving. Right now we'll do introduction of guests. So all you folks that are sitting in seats out there, starting over here in the front row to my right, your left, if you could please stand and give your name and who you are here representing, we would appreciate it. And speak loudly so we hear you, thank you.
Robert Tyron,
Kenneth Manning, Illinois Retired Officers Concealed Carry. Jeffrey Chapman, Board Staff.
Dan Ryan, MTU 10.
Brian Fingal, MTU 7.
Jennifer Woolbridge, Board Staff. Kelly Griffith, Board Staff.
David Hayes, MTU 14.
Scott Whitman, MTU 14. Kevin Coons, MTU 12.
Eric Bingle, Board Staff.
Tad Williams, Lincoln County Law Enforcement Training Center.
Cindy Bricker, Executive Institute. Heather Hopes, Executive Institute.
Chuck Down, Mobile Team Unit 15. Doug Pan, MTU 2.
Deb Allens, Mobile Team 2. Bill Marr, MTU 16.
Richard Funk, MTU 16.
Doug Apatelli, MTU 1.
John Reynolds, MTU 4. John Verona, MTU 16.
Bradley Hertzman, MTU 16.
Marty Schaefer, MTU 3.
Joe Slice, MTU 3.
Jan Noble, Board Staff.
Janet Moscardelli, MTU 10. Penny Abbott, MTU 9.
Karen Dasher, MTU 10.
Bob Crouch, MTU 10.
Lee Riker, Board Staff.
Ian Mushler, Southwest Illinois College Police Academy.
Mike Schlosser, Police Training Institute.
Denise Matthew, Board Staff.
Ryan Ware, MTU 13.
Christina Stefan, MTU 13.
Sir, over here with the camera.
Kent Voth, CSN.
All right, thank you everyone, welcome. We will now have our Distinguished Service Awards. They'll be presented by our attorney and our acting director.
First, I'd like to recognize Deb Allens. Deb Allens is retiring from Mobile Team number 2, NITAB. Deb has served at NITAB since 1984 when it was created. She was the first employee there. And she became the director in 1997. She's had many years of service. We appreciate her commitment to the Mobile Team system. Richard was a Joliet police officer for 30 years. He's been with Tri-River for 13 years, and since 2008. He also has many years of service and commitment to the board, which we appreciate.
Congratulations to Deb and Richard. We appreciate your service and well-deserved honors for you. Thank you so much. Chairman's remarks. First of all, I want to say it's good to see some people in person. Obviously we don't have everybody here, but this is our new world, and it'll probably remain this way going forward. But it's good to be able to be in person with folks and see we're moving in the right direction. A lot of people I've seen virtually, but had never met in person, so it's great to be able to do those things, and just excited about what our board is going to do. Just real briefly, I just want to talk about the great opportunity that is in front of us right now. No matter what your feelings are about the recently implemented legislation, we are the people that have been charged with the bulk of implementation for those things that we have before us. So, those of you who heard my big mouth before know that I have a saying that I'm not that glass half full guy. And with the challenges that we have ahead of us, I look at them as opportunity and for all of us to be a part of improving the face of law enforcement as it has been presented to us. And with that frame of mind, we're going to do all that we possibly can to make sure that this profession is moving forward and to make sure that our voices have been and continue to be heard. Several people up here and in the audience have been involved with giving input and development of the legislation, whether it be the initial draft or the trailer bill and ongoing legislation. And I assure you that we are actively, constantly fighting to make sure that our perspective is heard and that we are giving our input to make sure that things are moving forward. So I'm just excited about the expansion that's taking part within the organization, within the board, and for us to be able to service the MTUs and those boots on the ground folks in the areas around the state of Illinois that'll be helping to implement these things. And at the end of the day, we want for our profession to be at a higher height for both ourselves and for the communities that we serve. And I'm just honored to be your chairman, and once again, just excited about moving in the direction. So please, I said this yesterday to the MTU directors, if there's things that we are doing that you think we should be doing, please let us know. If there's things that we are not doing that you think we should be doing, please let us know. If you feel that things are broken and we don't know about it, we can't fix it. And coming together collaboratively, we can move things forward. So once again, it's an honor to be serving as your chairman. Please feel free to contact me, and I'm sure I can speak for my fellow board members, anybody up here, if you have any questions or concerns. And I thank you. Next, so the minutes have been distributed. We have the minutes from the curriculum and School Standards Advisory Committee from February 18th of 2021. We have the Finance and Legislative Committee meeting minutes from February 18th of 2021. And we have the quarterly board meeting from March 4th of 2021. And if you had a chance to look over those minutes, I will entertain a motion to approve those minutes. So moved. So moved. Sheriff? Okay, we got that. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Yes, Mr. Chief Williams.
Yes.
So I would have to correct one thing for the March minutes on page 8. That's following. Deputy Chicago, she and I did a report about the one partnership with Chicago University. It's just say Chicago State.
Okay, so at the bottom of page 8, in that last paragraph, it says with Chicago University, and it should say Chicago State University.
Correct.
Duly noted.
Mr. Chairman, were those documents sent to everybody? I don't have copies of minutes of the board book today.
Yeah, that packet, yes, sir, the packet was sent out to everyone. It was mailed out actually to everyone.
Okay, to work on some. We're still remote.
Yeah, it would have gotten mailed to the AG's office.
Okay.
Okay, so we have any other corrections, comments? So we have a motion with corrections for page 8 of the March meeting. And if there's no more comments or questions, we can take a roll call, please.
Mitchell Davis,
Yes.
Sean Smoot,
Yes.
Anthony Cobb,
Yes.
John Eberg,
Yes.
Eden Newkirk,
Yes.
Ricardo Pagan, J.W. Price,
Yes.
LaDonna Reynolds,
Yes.
Richard Watson,
Yes.
Elvia Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, so we will now have a report of our standing and advisory committees. First up will be Curriculum and School Standards Advisory Committee. That is our chairman, Chief Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the report of the Curriculum Committee meeting from June 9th, 2021. We met yesterday and approved several new courses. First, we approved the Sheriff's Association's Pain Behind the Badge and Legal Legislative Updates. Next, we approved 5 courses from the Chicago Police Department covering use of force, officer wellness, custodial escort, and community policing. We then certified the spring 2021 in-service mandate courses, and then we approved the lead homicide investigator continuing education courses. Council Griffith then gave an update on the UIS curriculum revision recommendations for the transition course, law for police course, and the equivalency exam. We move to accept these recommendations and proceed to the next phase of the projects. She will speak more about this later in the meeting. Council Griffith then gave an update on the BLE curriculum changes and in-service mandate changes that will be required under the new safety reform legislation. Council Kiger then gave a quick update regarding the board's desire to move toward electronic testing and a new bill that would require the Supreme Court's court security officers to obtain board certification. With that, I'd ask for a motion to approve.
So motion to approve the report from the Curriculum and School Standards Advisory Committee. Can I get a second? Second. Any questions, comments, or corrections? We have a roll call, please.
Mitchell Davis,
Yes.
Sean Smoot,
Yes.
Anthony Cobb,
Yes.
John Eberg,
Yes.
Eden Newkirk,
Yes.
Ricardo Pagan, J.W. Price,
Yes.
LaDonna Reynolds,
Yes.
Richard Watson,
Yes.
Elvia Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next report will be the Joint Finance and Legislative Committee report by Chairman Sean Smoot.
Morning, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yesterday, the Joint Finance and Legislative Committee met and unanimously approved the request for authorization to fund the first half of FY 2020 at $4,372,500. We are doing a half-year budget because of where we're at in terms of budget implementation and the state's budget that was just passed. In addition to that, I just want to highlight a couple issues. Our appropriation lines have been modified to increase our GRF funding significantly over what has been done previously. large part due to the additional duties that are being added to the board's portfolio in terms of certification and officer training. In addition to that, our line items have been increased significantly in the budget for the traffic ticket conviction surcharge fund. A lot of our projected funding moving forward is reliant on those funds, which frankly is not a reliable source of funding. So we are continuing to push on the legislative side, both the General Assembly and the Governor's Office, to further increase our budget with more reliable funding. We currently are budgeted for about $26 million out of the traffic ticket and conviction surcharge fund. We've never seen generation of those funds anywhere near that. In fact, I think the highest we've seen is probably about a third of that over the years. So that's we're going to have to keep working with them to essentially move our funding sources away from traffic surcharge ticket fund. On the legislative side, we received a report about the trailer bill that was just passed. Makes some significant changes in terms of the use of force language, body camera, usage and review, etc. And we anticipate that we will be in continued discussions with legislative leaders as we head towards January, refocusing on some other issues, including some of the certification language to ensure that the board is in a position to do what is intended by the bill in that area. As many of you know, with the additional tasks that the training board is being asked to take up, we're really going to have a change in terms of the nature of our organization. We're going from what is essentially a training organization and a curriculum approval organization to actually being a regulatory agency and having the authority to certify and decertify officers. With those additional duties, there's significant personnel ramifications, and the board has stood up a personnel committee to start working on increasing our personnel so that we can meet those obligations. Currently, our approved headcount for FY21 is 25. Our actual headcount as of June 1st was 19. Our approved headcount for FY22 is 40, and we've been working very hard to get new positions, which is a process. Hiring, creating new positions under the state system, but new positions created and then posted for hiring. And I do want to acknowledge the really exemplary work of Ellen Petty, who has taken on the HR role and has done really yeoman's work on this. So thank you, Ellen, for that. We currently, because of her work and with the help of CMS, we've been able to fast track over the last probably 45 days the creation, approval, and posting of about 13 positions. That's a big deal in state government, for those of you who don't know. I think we just received word last night, as I heard this morning, we received word last night, one of the key positions that we need, which is IT, we've been able to fill, which is a tremendous accomplishment in and of itself. We've also identified another 10 positions that would become the next wave of priority. So we actually have about 23 positions in progress. Those additional 10 positions will probably be posted and approved and posted within the next 30 days or so. Included in the board's packet at tab H is our working draft of a organizational chart, and those positions are identified in that chart as well. Additionally, there's a we divided the state into kind of sub-regions, and are projecting field investigators that will be assigned to each geographic area. That is also included in tab H, as well as the rationale for the number of field investigators assigned per region. With that, I would appreciate a motion to approve the report of the Finance and Legislative.
So moved, Sheriff Watson.
Seconded.
Second, Mayor Price. Any comments, questions, corrections? Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mitchell Davis.
Yes.
Sean Smoot.
Yes.
Anthony Cobb.
Yes.
John Meidelberg.
Yes.
Gita Newkirk.
Yes.
Ricardo Pagan. J.W. Price.
Yes.
LaDon Reynolds.
Yes.
Richard Watson.
Yes.
Elvia Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Executive matters, financial items. Denise Matthew.
Good morning, everyone. The items in the fiscal report are found in tab G of your board book. They are the numbers through May 27th, the date the report was created. Page 1 shows in red the monthly traffic surcharge fund deposits for the first 10 months of fiscal year 21 up to May the 5th for a total of $9,428,959.55. In blue is the comparison for the same period for fiscal year 20. Since the report on June 8th, we received 2 deposits totaling $769,695, bringing our deposits through May 26th to $10,198,695. This results in a difference of $2,605,327 less than the same period in fiscal year 2020. Our current balance in the surcharge fund is $1,702,323.79. The chart on page 3 shows a 3-year comparison of the decrease in the monthly revenues from 2019 to 2021 due to the change in the way they calculate the traffic surcharge fund. The chart on page 5 shows comparison of revenues from 1996 to 2001. Page 6 shows our camera grant fund for the first 10 months for a total of $1,225,042. Blue is the comparison to fiscal year 2020. On June 8th, we also received 2 additional deposits of $91,928, bringing our total deposits through March 26th to $1,316,969. Resulting in a difference of $369,096 compared to the same period last year. Page 8 shows the interest deposits. Page 8 shows the comparison revenue for camera grant from 2007 to 2021. Page 9 shows.
We lost that, right?
Excuse me?
Okay. I didn't know if it was my connection.
I didn't hear your question.
Gita, can you hear her now? Can you hear her? I think you got to turn your video off.
Okay. Page 9 shows the interest deposits for the first 10 months of $5,528, and in blue the comparison for fiscal year 2020. The difference in the interest is $35,614 less than last fiscal year. The current balance in the camera grant fund is $2,839,859.84. Are there any questions regarding the deposits into these funds? projected enrollment. I changed the format of this report to better show the 3-year comparison that was requested at the last board meeting. Page 13 shows the same information in graph form for the number of officers trained, and page 14 shows this information by the tuition costs. These figures are based on actual course enrollment and projected claim costs. Due to the end of direct billing, we have a massive increase in the number of claims that are being filed by the departments, which will be paid at the end of the state lapse period, which normally runs from July 1st through August 31st. But I was informed yesterday they have extended our lapse period until September 30th, giving us an extra month to pay the bills.
Can you hold on 1 second, please? I
Sure.
think they have, all of them have triangle, so they're texting me saying that they've lost our connection.
Okay.
Give us one moment to see. So they're all texting me saying they can't hear us. Okay, can you guys hear us now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you.
Should I go back to my interest?
If you could start at the 3-year comparison, the new report you were saying, the restructured report on page 11.
Okay. The projected enrollment in tuition for fiscal year 21 on page 11 shows the academy-based enrollment projections through the end of fiscal year 21. I changed the format of the report to better show the 3-year comparison that was requested at the last board meeting. Page 13 shows in graph form the same numbers based on the number of officers enrolled, and page 14 shows the information based on tuition costs. The figures are based on the actual course enrollment and projected claim costs. With the ending of direct billing, we have an increase in the number of claims being filed by the departments, which will be paid during the state lapse period, normally running from July 1st through August 31st. But we were informed yesterday they extended the lapse period to go through September 30th. Are there any questions on the enrollment portion of this report? Okay, the fiscal year 22 legislative budget was approved by the legislature on May 31st. It has not yet been signed by the governor. On page 15, I have a comparison of the fiscal year 22 and 21 budgets based on what has been determined to be our operational needs due to the police reform bill. All of our general office operating budget is going to be paid out of general revenue funds now, and the training will be paid out of traffic surcharge and additional monies that would be coming from general revenue that they would transfer into our traffic surcharge fund of $8 million. In addition to that, the only change we see from the March information I provided was an additional $8 million to go towards crisis intervention training and mental health awareness training that is being provided by a federal grant that the Governor's Office of Budget and Management applied for on our behalf through the American Rescue Plan Act. These are projected funds, and we have not yet gotten any information on whether the grant has been approved. The total increase in our budget is now $24,511,400 for a total budget of $52,025,600. Of that amount, $21,325,600 is general revenue. And of the general revenue amount, $5,325,600 is allocated for operations, with the remaining being allocated to training only on the approval of the governor. The remaining funds outside the $5 million are only available up to the amount that we collect in the surcharge fund and the amount that the governor's governor's office actually approves us to be transferred. Are there any questions on this portion of the report? Or budget questions in general? We have one on the board.
Gita, go ahead.
Thank you. I just have an operational question that does apply to the budget. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Okay. So how are we managing the possible need for additional office space with the increase of employees that are being added? I know we have talked in a committee meeting about looking at remote options for some of the new employees, but there's also discussion about the need for additional office space. So is that reflected in this budget at all?
I have not been involved in this space needs, so I will leave that up to someone other than me.
That's still a work in progress right now. This is Keith Calloway speaking. I know there's some rules coming from the governor's office that still remain to be seen how it's going to work out as far as workspace is concerned. There are issues with contractual space and also contractual employees, not to mention bargaining agreements. So still very much a work in progress. We'll probably advise more at the next board meeting.
Okay, that's great. And I know we've talked about committee meetings. I think there's a great opportunity to look at remote work options and a policy in that regard, rather than having to spend dollars on additional office space.
Yeah,
How do you work with you?
Actually, I know the governor's office is looking at a hybrid work option that we speak. So again, still a work in progress.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, then the last item I have is the half-year funding budget. It is customary in June for us to approve, for the board to approve a half-year budget for us for operations of the mobile team units, the Executive Institute, Crisis Intervention, Chicago Police and Service, Leader Crime Institute, and professional associations. So we are asking at this time that we be given approval for the half-year recommendations that are found on page 17. And the breakdown of the $4,372,500 is mobile chains, $3 million, Executive Institute, $500,000, Crisis Intervention Training, $500,000, Chicago Police In-Service, $200,000, Illinois Commuter Crime Institute, $122,500, and professional associations, $50,000. And I will need a motion for approval of this portion. Well, I guess I should ask a question first, sorry.
Well, we have a motion for approval of a half-year budget of $4,372,500, and it was seconded by Sheriff, that was made by Director Smoot and seconded by Sheriff Watson. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mitchell Davis,
Yes.
Sean Smoot,
Yeah.
Anthony Cobb,
Yes.
Sheriff Heidelberg,
Yes.
Gita Dukert,
Yes.
Ricardo Khan, J.W. Price,
Yes.
LaDon Reynolds,
Yes.
Richard Watson,
Yes.
Elvia Williams.
Chief Williams, we can't hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we will have legislative and litigation update by our attorney.
Thank you. Happy to report no litigation pending at the moment. As for the legislative update, the General Assembly just wrapped up their spring session, and there are a few bills of interest that I want to mention now. I'm pleased to just mention the budget bill. That was Senate Bill 2800. And I just want to highlight the request we made for American Rescue Act plan funding that would go towards some special CIT services, as well as mental health and peer support that we'd like to expand perhaps into an institute if we are able to get those grant awards. I also want to mention Senate Bill 2017, that's the BIM, or the Budget Implementation Bill. In there was the creation of a new law enforcement training fund that will collect a portion of existing insurance producer licensure fees, as well as a new fee collected by insurance agents for each policy they issue. These funds will be used by the board to support law enforcement certification compliance and the development and provision of basic courses by board candidates and in-service course providers. While the initial calculations are still being done to determine the amounts these funds will generate, we believe it will exceed the 10 to 15 million usually brought in by the surcharge fund, and this should help us move away from GRF that we've been using for the last couple of years. I also want to mention Senate Bill 626 regarding fines and fees. After the major fines and fees reform was enacted in 2018, it allowed for reductions of fines and fees based upon a offender's income level. This bill was going to expand those to traffic-related offenses as well. After there were several meetings of the stakeholders, a compromise consensus was reached where a pilot program would be started only in Cook County to see how much interest there was in this, and that the traffic reductions would be limited to half. So only criminal that can be reduced completely, traffic reductions would be limited to half. So that pilot program exists for 2 years, and we expect to report at the end to see if that's going to become permanent or what changes need to be made. Nevertheless, that will likely affect the surcharge fund, especially coming out of Cook County. The most bill that we spent the most attention on was House Bill 3443, which became the safety trailer bill. This bill did several things, but most importantly from the board's perspective, three major items were the clarification of the CIT section of the underlying act. We received several questions that the mandate for a crisis intervention course was linked to the full 40-hour CIT team training course. We made sure there was a clarification there that no shorter courses addressing mental health recognition and general crisis intervention would qualify for that mandate. So happy to see that got put in the bill. We also clarified the 30-hour requirement for in-service training. We moved that to a different section to ensure that officers have a better understanding of what their thresholds are going to be moving forward with the 3-year mandate. We also were able to extend and push back the deadline for the in-service training mandates kicking in. Most of the effective dates for the board's portion of the Underlying Safety Act start January 1st. However, there was a provision made making sure that we added some more additional mandates July 1st. So with some discussions on that, we were able to push that back to January 1st and make that consistent with our other deadlines. Several other items still remain outstanding, so we expect trailer, or at least further discussions to continue throughout the fall on the board's portion of the Safety Act and perhaps some of the trailer in the veto session. Several other bills that we looked at throughout the session ended up falling by the wayside by the time we got to the finish line. So we'll keep those on file and keep watching them to see if they pop up later. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we have personnel updates. I know Director Snoop gave a personnel committee update. Do we have any additional information for personnel updates? Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you to Vice Chairman Snoop for making this easy on me. I did want to, since you've covered pretty much everything else in the report, I did want to speak to the remote work option. We have received information that AFSCME and CMS Labor are working on an agreement to be able to offer that option. They're still in the process of working on the details and the guidelines, but we've been told within the next 30 to 60 days we should expect some sort of guidance on that. And once we receive that guidance, we'll have a better idea of what we'll be allowed to do in the future. If anybody has any questions on any of the personnel stuff, I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, everything's in the report in the board book.
All right, thank you. Next, we have our law enforcement corrections, county security waiver disposition quarterly report. So that's tab I in your board books, and you'll see that there's a total approved of 513 and 45 rejected. And if there are no questions, I will entertain a motion to approve that report. A motion. Motion by Chief Reynolds.
Seconded.
Second by Mayor Price. Any questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mitchell Davis,
Yes.
Sean Smoot, Anthony Cobb,
Yes.
John Edelberg,
Yes.
Gita Newkirk,
Yes.
Ricardo Pecan, Janet Price,
Yes.
LaDon Reynolds,
Yes.
Richard Watson,
Yes.
Elvia Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right.
Thank you. Program progress reports and concepts. Illinois Law Enforcement Executive Institute. Heather Hopes. Step on up. Welcome.
Good morning. You said it correctly. You really people mispronounce that last name.
I wrote it down this time, Heather. I had some help beforehand. I cheated, but I wrote it down.
Well, good morning. I am here because I want to outline some of the curricular activities at the Executive Institute over the last quarter. First of all, our online learning network. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's a custom-built learning management system. And for the fiscal year up until this point, we have 26,423 users in our online learning network. So far, we have 195,000 hours completed with the training. We expect to hit 200,000 before the end of this fiscal year. Also, our LEAD series, if you're unfamiliar with that, I will describe that a little bit to you. In April, we started our Frontline Supervision 101 course. This is a 40-hour course that focuses on the first line supervisor's role and functions and builds a solid introduction to management level decision making. We just recently completed that particular course. We are also planning for a PER in the fall of 2021. If you're unfamiliar with that particular course, it's Police Executive Role in the 21st Century. It's an advanced level professional development program that provides senior police executives with intense training in law enforcement's latest management concepts and practices. It challenges the participants to think strategically, enhance the individual, the team, and organizational leadership competencies, and takes their organization to the next level. So PER 21C is designed for chief executives and those wishing to be as such, and is a 100-hour course starting in September of this fall. Also, we just completed about 2 weeks ago our 2021 Women in Criminal Justice Conference. It took place May 17th through the 20th. We were very fortunate to have 3 excellent keynote speakers. We had Philadelphia Police Commissioner Daniel Outlaw. We had Dr. Kimberly Miller, and we had retired Lieutenant Colonel Stephanie Finley. Other notable speakers included Assistant Attorney General Cordelia Coppelson, who led a training on trauma in the brain and trauma-informed approach to violent crime and victim interviews. Dr. Cynthia Lum, who is the Professor of Criminology, Law, and Society, as well as Director of the George Mason University Center for Evidence-Based Crime Policy, who presented on evidence-based policing, translating and institutionalizing research into action. And Jessica Reeves, the editorial director for the Anti-Defamation League Center on Extremism, who presented on incels. And also Carrie Wooten, president of Mindset Enterprise, who gave an actually really highly regarded and received presentation on neural leadership and gender. So we had many more fantastic speakers. Those were just a few of the highlighted ones, and we are excited for our next rendition, which will be in April of 2022. Lastly, we also facilitated an executive summit. This particular summit was on situational awareness, and that was by Dave Sanderson. He focused on key aspects of why organizations succeed or fail and how to sort of recover from that. If you're unfamiliar with the name, he was one of the last passengers to get off U.S. Airways 1549, which was also known as the Miracle on the Hudson. So that concludes my report, and I will entertain any questions or comments from the board. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the statewide system in-service training, assist program, and specialized training programs. Kelly Griffin.
Good morning.
Morning.
My report and 5 attachments are found behind tab K. I don't have any additional information report, but questions?
No questions.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kelly. CIT and SRO training update, Jennifer Woolridge.
Good morning. I wanted to just point out that we are ready for our CIT conference. It is on June 21st and 22nd, which is just about a week and a half away. And it's going to be an awesome conference. The highlight is de-escalation, peer support and officer wellness, co-responders, and how to advance CIT in your community. We have panel speakers. We have DC Ersetti, who is going to be joining us as a luncheon speaker. We have a therapy dog. We have breakout sessions. We have role play. We have pretty much something for everybody. If you are interested in joining us, we would love to have you there. Anybody in your agency. It is not only for CIT officers, it's for city administrators, it's for our friends at NAMI, it is for social workers. We will be, with the Executive Institute, who have been phenomenal in this, we are going to offer some CEU credits. So it's truly, we're gearing up for a great conference. We have about 160 signed up so far. So I'm happy to entertain any questions you have.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Next up, our part-time basic training program, Acting Director Callaway.
Good morning. My report lies behind tab M in the board book. Nothing has really changed since the report was submitted. The part-time program is still moving forward in a post-COVID, or should I say current COVID environment. So we've had about 78 this year graduated from the part-time. That's about 58 currently enrolled, and the program still moves forward. That being said, I'd be happy to entertain any questions anybody has any. Thank you.
Okay, so having heard those 4 reports, I will entertain a motion to accept the reports from the Executive Institute, from the ASSIST program, the CIT and SRO training, and part-time basic training programs. Second. So moved, Sheriff Watson. Second, Mayor Price. Any questions, comments, concerns, updates? Roll call, please.
Mitchell Davis,
Yes.
Sean Smoot,
Yes.
Anthony Cobb,
Yes.
Sheriff Iver,
Yes.
Keita Newkirk,
Yes.
Ricardo Pagan, J.W. Price,
Yes.
LaDon Reynolds,
Yes.
Richard Watson,
Yes.
Elvia Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Unfinished business. Police reform update. Acting Director Callaway.
Refer to legal counsel, John here.
Thank you. On this particular matter, I just wanted to mention that with the Safety Act, there's lots that the board is working on, gearing up for the major reforms that are going to come because of that. One of the more interesting ones is the public and internal portals that will be available for chiefs and sheriffs to look up the conduct of past officers, the files of past officers. And so we are using that opportunity to enhance our database. The Police Training Board's database was created in '99. There's been a little update since then, but it's essentially a 20-year-old program. And so it's time for that to be updated anyway. And our hope here is that we can integrate a lot of the LEDM and LEDI systems into the database so that information can be shared a lot more easily and a lot more accessibly. If things go well, we hope to have even perhaps an officer portal where an officer can look at their own individual records and see what classes they've taken and where they still need to make up some of the mandates. Andrew Oldfield has been working on that project. He's our IT coordinator for the moment, and he's going to give just a brief overview of some of the changes and what those will look like.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen real quick, do a live demo of our new system. So before I show the new one, I kind of wanted to just show a brief overview of our old system and kind of talk about that. It is about 20 years old, and it's pretty hard to make changes. And the thing about this system too is that we have multiple applications that all talk to each other. And And so when we make one change to our internal system, we have to make it to all of our changes because they all talk to each other. And right now, each application is basically in its own silo, so they each hold information, duplicate information, and at midnight every night, they talk to each other and get all synchronized. So with the new system, whenever like a Form E is added or a change is made, you'll have real-time updates. You don't have to wait until midnight for everything to synchronize and talk together. So this is the old PTB. Everything is pretty much on one page. You have the general information up top, employment history, waiver history, and then training records. And so for the new one, let me switch over to the other tab. This is our internal system here, but the public portal is going to have the same look and feel. The only difference is that our internal system, we have more information. So I will go ahead and kind of pull up an officer, and that way you can get an idea of what the public portal will look like. So on here you'll have the search page, and for us we'll search for PTBID, last name and first name, but for the public, if we wanted to change that, we can kind of customize the search for whatever's easiest for them. So I'm going to pull up an officer here. So the difference between this one and the other one is that everything kind of broken out into a different tab. It's a lot more easier to see. So on the first tab, you have the general information. You'll have their name, their PTBID number, their certification date, their status, if they're active, inactive, decertified, and then their current employment. And then you have their firearm information, weapons training history, and then if we have any notes about the officer, we'll also be able to see it down here at the bottom. If I go to the next page for employment, so you'll see that this officer started at Pontiac Police Department. He was law enforcement full-time, and then his employment dates, and that he resigned. And then we'll see that he started in Chatham, and that he had a waiver submitted, and it was approved on August 19th, 2009, because he had basic training. The training history will show all of their history, all of their course history here. If there's multiple pages, you can't scroll to each different page. And the last section would be the professional conduct. So there's two different tables in here. There's a report section for the chief and sheriff. So if we receive a report from a chief or sheriff, we can go ahead and add a new report about them. And the request section is when they're going to a different department, the department is supposed to look them up in the professional conduct database, and we'll be able to log when they look them up or when they put in the request to see if they're in the professional conduct database. And also, like the investigations, when that piece gets built, that'll probably also be on this page here as well. Are there any questions about the public portal?
The training, will that, the online learning network and all that, will that automatically import into that?
Yep, so.
How do you guys get that data from the MTUs and the Executive Institute?
So right now, we have Level created where all the MTUs have access to. And so the MTUs will enter the course, the class, the roster and everything. And then this system here will be able to communicate with LEDM, and it'll be able to pull that information.
Any other questions, comments? Well, I have a comment. I want to thank you, because when you started out saying that the computer system was 20 years old, any computer system that is 20 years old is obsolete. So I thank you for the efforts. I'm sure it's monumental effort to bring this up today. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any questions? Yes, let's give them a round of applause. Okay, thank you, sir.
Happy to report that the body camera grant program for FY21 has been opened and is now closed, and we have about 130 applications in process. Requests for the grant program exceed $3.4 million. About 25 agencies have been processed and 17 are ready to go. I think we've earmarked about 8,000 already for award, so we're hoping that we can work with the others who have some issues outstanding to clarify that and make sure they're all eligible as we work through the end of the fiscal year to get that done. As Denise reported, the lapse period has been extended through September, so at the September board meeting, I may come back asking to spend more money. Right now, we've asked for about $2 million this year, and I think the fund should have $3 million in it by the end of the fiscal year. So if that's the case, and we have requests exceeding the $2 million, I'll come back to the board and ask for that additional funding to be distributed. One other quick update on camera grants. In the BIM bill that I mentioned, state universities will be eligible for the grants next year, so we're happy to see that addition has finally been added. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Law enforcement and corrections recruit extensions due to COVID-19.
Thank you. On this issue, a year ago, we recognized that the need to extend the initial 6-month and 18-month training requirements for certified officers because of canceled courses needed to be extended. And so while the Police Training Act allows for a general 90-day extension, any extension beyond that time must be done through a conditional waiver. So therefore, we've created this ongoing list of officers who need additional time to get their training done due to COVID complications. These officers are reflected on tab N and grant additional 12 and I think 18 months to their respective courses to get their time completed. I'm happy to see that several officers are actually coming off this list and they're getting more compliant with the training requirements. However, there are a number of officers, in fact, a quarter of the officers on this list represent part-time officers who either started and didn't go to training or either separated, and we're simply preserving their right to come back and be a part-time officer because that's a one-time only clock that starts to tick for them. So making sure we afford them the great opportunity to come back is something we want to make sure we cover here. That said, after this extension, I do want to start reaching out to those who are kind of waiting a long time and making sure that their officers are moving towards meeting their training compliance.
All right, so we need a motion.
Yes, because that's a special waiver extension, we need a motion.
So I will entertain a motion for law enforcement and corrections recruit extensions due to COVID-19.
So moved.
So move Sheriff Watson.
Second.
Second, was that Chief Williams?
Yes.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Roll call, please.
Mitchell Davis,
Yes.
Sean Smoot,
Yes.
Anthony Cobb,
Yes.
John Adelberg,
Yes.
Gina Newkirk,
Yes.
Ricardo Pagan, Jacob Price,
Yes.
LaDon Reynolds,
Yes.
Richard Watson,
Yes.
Elvia Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. New business. First, new business update on curriculum changes for the Safety Act and Trailer Mill House Bill 3443, Senate Amendment 5, verbal report, and that's Kelly.
Good morning. I want to start before we actually get to the Safety Act and the Trailer Mill Safety Act changes with a brief overview of the project to update curriculum that began in January of 2020. So in January of 2020, the Project for Public Safety and Justice, which is housed at the Institute for Legal, this job that needed to be done to update not only the basic law enforcement curriculum, but also the correctional officer curriculum and the court security officer curriculum. As a part of that update, they also needed to review the transition course, which is a course that is taken by officers transitioning from part-time to full-time. And also the law for police class, which is used for out-of-state reciprocity and for officers who have been out of law enforcement for several years. In addition, they also needed to look at and make recommendations for the equivalency exam, which is the exam given to our officers coming from out of state who want to work in Illinois as law enforcement officers. So
That project began in January 2020. As we all have been surviving COVID, it certainly has not progressed as quickly as we would have liked, but I am happy to report that in tab F, they completed the initial steps of the work, looking at the transition course, the law for police course, and the equivalency exam. And so in tab F, there is that report. They listed recommendations for the transition course, which can be found on pages 7 and 8. And then they made recommendations for the law for police course and the equivalency exam. Those can be found on page 9. They then gave a comprehensive summary of all those recommendations on page 11 and 12. So we discussed those yesterday in the curriculum committee. One of the things that we needed to do, because those revisions will happen in conjunction with the revisions to the basic law enforcement curriculum, which has begun and going to continue over the summer. And so they all work together, and we needed those the motions so that they could continue that work, and that was done yesterday, and I appreciate that. The work at UIS will be ongoing through the summer, but I wanted to alert you that that first report that they gave recommendations is in tab F. Any questions on that before I move into the Safety Act and the Trailer Bill and the Safety Act? Okay. We obviously had the Safety Act passed in the lame duck session, and then we were awaiting the trailer bill language, which is House Bill 3443, Senate Amendment 5. I'm going to break this down first, starting with the basic law enforcement, how it impacted that curriculum, or will impact that curriculum, and then I'll finish up with the in-service. So in the changes to both of those, to the law and the trailer bill, which we anticipate will be signed by the governor, several things were added specifically to the basic law enforcement. The first being the crisis intervention training. We've had a number of questions about whether that means the crisis intervention team training, the full 40-hour. We've received clarification that that is not what's intended, but there will be an intro to the crisis intervention team training added to the basic law enforcement. Still in works, but probably a 1-day or 2-day introduction, so that those in the academy will have an introduction to what that is and potentially something they might want to do once they have experience as a law enforcement officer. The law also added 12 hours of hands-on scenario-based role-playing, at least 6 hours of use of force techniques, including de-escalation. It added specific language about specific training on officer safety techniques, including cover, concealment, and time, and also at least 6 hours of training on high-risk traffic stops. Now, the good news I can tell you, almost all of this is already in the 560-hour basic law enforcement curriculum, but the UIS team will be reviewing those mandates along with the changes that will become effective July 1 that change the content of legal issues, and that will be incorporated in the curriculum that will hopefully be completed and be able to be given to the academies starting January 1st of 22. We have had a number of questions from not just academy directors, but also chiefs and sheriffs about how will this impact the number of hours in the academy. It's currently 560. Most of our academies, that's the minimum. Most of our academies are well over that. As an example, they're already doing well over 12 hours of role-play type training. So that will continue, but as they review over the summer, I do anticipate with the additional mandates that there may be an increase in the 560 hour. They're too early in the review to be able to give me a firm estimate of how many additional hours may be added, but we can expect that there will probably be some additional hours added. The more pressing issue for the academies and really all of law enforcement are the changes that are effective July 1 here in a few weeks. We began the review of the trailer bill last week as soon as we knew what that final language was, so that we could begin analyzing what was going to be directly impacted in the training, both for basic training and in-service training. The main training topics that are impacted are use of force, rights of accused, criminal offenses, because there are some new offenses and there are also changes to existing criminal offenses. So those were sort of the big areas that we know impact not only the basic law enforcement, but the basic correctional officer, the basic court security officer training also. The change of the use of force laws effective July 1, so that's the primary focus. The other changes, many of them are not in effect till January 1 of 22, and some not till 23. So early next week, I will be finalizing the document and information that we will send out to the academies, both part-time, full-time law enforcement, but also need to go out to the basic correctional officer academies. And there's been a request to send that to the board members and also to the MTU, so we can try to get as much information disseminated as quickly as we can. We also anticipate we'll have a summary of that information on our website, just for anybody who's interested in what changes are immediately effective July 1. So the UIS project will incorporate not only those changes that are effective July 1, but anything that's going to be effective January 1 of 22, so that when we roll that curriculum out, it will hopefully not be out of date. It's always tricky. Last time we rolled out the curriculum in 2017, we rolled it out at the beginning of June. In July 1, there was a change to the UW statute involving switchblades. So law changes quickly, and we try to keep it updated. We'll also watch for any changes that come through in VO session that might impact that curriculum. So the changes July 1 are pressing for us also, not just for the curriculum, but also for the exam. Any academy that is either in session or going to continue after July 1, obviously we'll need to get that new law and new laws that are effective July 1, and that will also impact the exam, which will be reviewed and updated. So any recruit coming in the academy and being exposed and trained on that new law effective July 1 will then be tested on that new law as opposed to the old law. I just want to mention also that the basic correctional officer and the court security curriculum is also being updated. They are currently in the job task analysis right now on that, so we anticipate that content review will begin probably late summer because they're going to need to finish up that job task analysis. I'll pause if there are any questions regarding any of the basic curriculum. Okay. Changes to the in-service mandates. Fortunately, the trailer bill did change the effective date of those new mandates, the changes to the mandates for in-service to January 1 of 22, so we were very appreciative of that. That gives us additional time to not only work on the guidelines that will need to be finalized for the MTUs and those who train around the state to know what is expected and what training can be offered that will be given credit for certain mandates. But it also allows us time, Andrew and hopefully his team that he'll be getting soon, to make the necessary changes to let him, because as the system works right now, when a training is sent in, the topics that are covered are sort of a checkbox kind of system. And so if they go to that training, they get credit for that mandate. Well, with the new hours that are going to be mandated, we're going to need to be able to track that. And so that is, he's already began work on that, but we didn't want to finalize anything because there were some things changed with the trailer bill. So just a quick summary, the 3 years of this will be effective January 1st. So all the current mandates that are in effect now will remain until the end of the year.
Excuse me. All right, I think we're losing signal.
Okay, great, thanks.
We still have our internet connection. Gita, can you hear us? Manager Newkirk? Okay. So give us just a moment for it to reconnect, please. Undersheriff, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. All right. We're good. Thank you, ma'am.
So as of January 1st of 2022, wow, I'm going back, I don't want to relive 2020. So the mandates that will be every 3 years, and there will be a total of 30 hours that will be required every 3 years, will be the constitutional proper use of law enforcement authority, procedural justice, civil rights, human rights, reporting child abuse and neglect, and cultural competency, including implicit bias and racial and ethnic sensitivity. The annual, there's also a special use of force mandate that's every 3 years, and I'll get to that section here in a second. The annual mandates will be law updates, emergency medical response training and certification, crisis intervention training. Again, it was clarified with the sponsors of the bill that this would include crisis intervention team training, but it will also include other crisis intervention training that is not that specialized course, and officer wellness and mental health. So those will be the annual mandates. The special...
Hold on, one more time. Did we lose connection again? Gita, can you hear us? Manager Newkirk, can you hear us? Give me a thumbs up if you can. Undersheriff, no? Anybody hear us?
One of the stories and where it needs to talk faster. Trying to improve.
Manager Newkirk, can you hear us? There you go. Want me to bring my phone a hotspot?
Yes.
Well, it's Wi-Fi as well. I don't think it's the cable. I believe it's yours. I believe it's the ISP.
All right. Okay, so we're... Chief Williams, can you hear me?
I can access Wi-Fi with this laptop. So I should.
12 hours of hands-on scenario-based role-playing, 6 hours of instruction of use of force techniques, including use of de-escalation techniques to prevent or reduce the need for force whenever safe and feasible. It also requires specific training on the law concerning stop searches and the use of force under the 4th Amendment of the United States Constitution, specific training on officer safety techniques, including cover, concealment, and time, and at least 6 hours of training focused on high-risk traffic stops. We do believe that the 24 or the hours that are set out here in that use of force section would also count towards the total of 30 hours that officers will have to have every 3 years. So that is what will become effective January 1, and again, we'll be working on the lab system so that we can track all those hours and officers will get credit for that, for the time. That additional time allows us also to work diligently with the MTUs, and I want to just say to all of the MTUs, they've been amazing. They have been working with a very reduced schedule and also COVID, and they've done just an outstanding job of trying to continue keeping training moving forward. And I really thank them for that, their dedication, and I also thank them for their patience with me as I stepped into covering for Pat Hahn as he left the end of February, and so they have just done an amazing job. I also want to take a second to acknowledge the passing of Mark Edwards. He was the MTU 12 director for 40 years. Mark did an amazing job in that role, and he really cared about law enforcement and law enforcement training. And so we will miss Mark. I think everybody will miss Mark. I want to thank Kevin Coons, he was here. He helped Mark at the end, not only professionally at the MTU, but personally, and so I know that meant a lot to Mark also. I don't have anything else to report, but congratulations to Deb Holmes and Richard Funk on their retirement, and welcome to the 2 new MTU directors. I'll take any questions, comments.
I think we have an additional comment from Chief Kyle.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Kelly, for recognizing Mark. I was going to also do that as well. Condolences to Kevin, to MTU 12. Mark was the ultimate statesman. I mean, he was passionate about training, passionate about helping law enforcement. So thank you for recognizing that. And condolences to his family. I've known Mark my entire career, and I definitely, he will be missed. So thank you.
Our hearts go out to his family and to all his colleagues, and we also want to thank you, Kelly, and I want to give actually you and the MTUs a round of applause for the tremendous work you guys are doing throughout these difficult times. Okay, anticipated JCAR changes.
Thank you. Just wanted to briefly mention here that when an agency is charged with implementing some statutory directives, all the policy decisions related to putting those into effect that affect the public must go through the process for creating administrative rules, and that's approved by the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, known as JCAR. You hear about that now and then. With all the changes of the Police Training Act that are in the Safety Act and the corresponding trailer bill, we recognize there's a need to update some of the board's existing administrative rules and probably create a lot of new ones. We've had an initial conversation with our JCAR liaison and have begun to make some notes and draft outlines.
Loaded, I think we lost the signal again. Okay, can I get a thumbs up if you can hear me? All right, thanks.
Thank you. We have had that initial conversation with our JCAR liaison. We've begun to make some notes and draft outlines some areas that will need expansion and interpretation of the new act, as well as those that are due for some routine upgrades. We expect to establish new guidelines for the discretionary decertification process, the publicly accessible database, and the certification reactivation process. In addition, we will likely revise and update some of the existing sections related to in-service mandates, training waivers, and the camera grant. We hope to have some downtime, some quiet time over the summer months to really focus on this project. And we always welcome any comments or ideas for improvement by the public or board members or anyone. With most of the deadlines pushed to January, we hope to have the drafts ready for the September board meeting for approval, and then filing with the JCAR team with the goal of avoiding the need to do emergency rulemakings so we can proceed with the standard notice and comment periods required by the JCAR system. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Public input. We have 2 individuals signed up for public comments. First, we will call Carol Ruth Walls, and then we'll have Jeffrey Ray Walls. He will have 3 minutes to address the body. Okay, so we'll have Jeffrey first.
Good morning, gentlemen and ladies.
Good morning, sir.
I'm Brother Jeffrey Ray Walls. I believe in tearing down walls of hate and the violence and building up bridges of love that unite us. I was just released from IDOC
September 23rd of last year. I had a parole agent that is not about stopping recidivism or trying to help anybody get in groups to help anything. Right now, I'm a volunteer in my community in Bloomington, North Carolina. I've been doing nothing but volunteer work for churches and organizations there. I am the author of the paper that was written 27 years ago to change and reform IDOC, the formation of gang-free and drug-free institutions. I am the one that wrote that. 1,386 taxpaying constituents from McLean County, Peoria County, Lake County, and DuPage County signed this paper. Michael O'Leary, the Associate Deputy Director at the time, wanted me put in SAG for writing the paper. I used Taylorville Correctional Center as the projected site for the very first gang-free, drug-free institution, not only in the state of Illinois, but the whole nation. Odie Washington, the director, he wasn't at the time, it was Howard Peters III, but Odie Washington recognized him, and he said, yeah, they did change it 3 years later. Even though I was punished, threatened by gang chiefs and everything. The department didn't want to do anything for me. I have seen nothing but corruption in the department, serious corruption. I was incarcerated with Richard Speck back in 1989. I served him breakfast, lunch, and dinner because that was my job. I seen how they let him do whatever he wanted to do. I am a non-violent offender. I had no violent offenses. I had never carried a gun in my life. I have 2 brothers that were murdered in 2008 by a violent offender that got probation. I forgive this young man. His name is Michael Brian Brown, and he's in Menard right now. I did on August 3rd of 2019 for the Canoni House National Ministries, and it went viral from Sheridan Prison, where I was. And it went viral, a video on forgiving. You have to forgive. It means 2 brothers of mine. I said they forgave a man, he said they're murdered. But I haven't been forgiven of my nonviolent offenses. And this young man murdered my brothers with a Peoria police officer's stolen gun. He had already had aggravated battery, robbery, and mob action. But he was getting probation. While on probation, he had a DUI stop with a stolen gun in the vehicle. And this is in Bloomington, North, McLean County. His probation wasn't revoked. My brothers both did time in the 90s in prison, never went back. Calvin did time for driving on a revoked license out of McLean County. David did time for 714 grams of marijuana out of McLean County. But the man that murdered him did violent offenses. I was just in my last 54 days of my incarceration in Sheridan with a cellmate that shot a man in his chest. This was his second incarceration for gun violence. He received a 7-year sentence at 50% for aggravated battery with fire. He shot a man in the chest, attempted murder. I just sat there and finished doing almost 4 years for a nonviolent offense for $200. I have a son that's in DePaul University Law School right now. He's talking with the governor, he's talking with the Attorney General, and he's talking with me. I will be sitting there doing public speaking because now things are opening up. I've been Zooming with Benedictine University, DePaul University, Northwestern University. I'm all about, we gotta sit there and do the right thing. Tax dollars are spent on prisons that have asbestos in 6 of them in Illinois. I have never smoked a cigarette in my life, and I have lung issues. They don't want to diagnose me with mesothelioma because they think I want to sue. No, I don't want taxpayers' money. I don't want their money. I want to do the right thing. My mother's here, Carol Ruth Walls. She will be 83 in September. I'll be 53 in December. My father, he's 77 years old right now. He's on his last leg of life. He cannot even see me because he's legally blind. He's diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, prostate cancer. The department, they would not give me good time for nonviolent offense, but my cellmate that sat there and almost murdered a man, and he's to be getting out any day now, I believe, in this month of July. He was getting contract after contract with good time. I'm looking forward to talking to the Attorney General and the governor. They're like, this man's coming out. And I talked to him. He was my cellmate for 54 days. And he didn't want to listen to me about what going back out to do. I am a certified peer educator by the Illinois Department of Public Health. I sat there and constantly worked and worked and worked. I have nothing but certificates of everything I did in those 2 years and 5 months of shit. But I didn't get good time for what I did, even though the legislation said on January 1st, 2018, that any program you do, any course you take, it could be in AA. I was a cadre, and I was the one that sat there with all the inmates coming in. I orientate them, tell them what they have to do, tell them where your IDs, tell them about self-discipline, what to do. But this man that shot someone was getting me time. I was. And I'm wondering, what is he going to do when he get out? That's something that we need to stop. We have to be proactive and not reactive. I believe in 4 P's. Positive thinking over negative. I'll finish here in a second. Productive behavior over destructive. Progressive activity instead of regressive activity or aggressive activity. And definitely persistence instead of resistance in pursuing your potential. This is what I spoke over and over. Do you all have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Walls? Mr. Walls, thank you for your comment. I commend you on your accomplishments and wish you the best moving forward in the efforts that you have to change the system as you see it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. God bless you.
Bless you. Carol Ruth Walls. No, thank you. Okay, thank you, ma'am, for being here. Any other? Do we have any comments from WebEx? Do we have any? No. Okay. Announcements. Curriculum and School Standards Advisory Committee meeting will be September 8th in Decatur. Finance and Legislative Committee meeting will be September 8th in Decatur. And our next quarterly board meeting will be September 9th in Decatur. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. So second. Double second. Any questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mitchell Davis?
Yes.
Sean Smoot? Anthony Cobb?
Yes.
John Edelberg,
Yes.
Edith Newkirk,
Yes.
Ricardo Pagan, J.W. Price,
Yes.
LaDon Reynolds,
Yes.
Richard Watson,
Yes.
Elvia Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes.